Welcome to Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Ship, and I'm excited to be sharing with you my life with a son on the spectrum. This podcast is for anyone who is looking for quick tips and perspective, but most of all, for hope and inspiration. So sit back, relax, and let's put the pieces together. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pieces for My Puzzle. I'm your host, Nikki Ship. Thank you so much for joining us today. Last week we spoke with personal trainer Tyler Smith, and today we're going to continue that conversation with Tyler. So thanks so much, Tyler, for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Last week we talked about Tyler's specialty and how working out with kids in the gym, personal training, getting kids more movement and active is beneficial, especially on the spectrum. This week we thought we would continue our talk a little bit more, and we're probably going to get a little bit more in depth with Drayson, because Drayson's actually been working with Tyler for over 4 months now, and I think it's important for us to convey what we've seen with Drayson and how that can be influential for other parents and kids on the spectrum. So, as we were talking about last week, we have seen those changes in Drayson. We kind of talked a little bit about that. But have you noticed anything really significant with him since you started working with him? I mean, last week we might want to back up a little bit and explain to our audience that it didn't happen overnight with Drayson, right?
It did not.
Yeah. Yeah. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I've actually recently, within the past couple of weeks, it's an exercise that we do, and anytime I show him, he just doesn't do it. He just does something else. Mm-hmm. And I notice that he did it this time, and I'm like looking at, everyone and seeing if they see what I'm seeing. And so I was very impressed with that. And actually, he's been doing, it was about 4 or 5 exercises mm-hmm. that I would demonstrate to him, and like I said, he just wouldn't do them. So, and he did all 4 or 5 of them within the past few weeks. Mm-hmm. So I think he's getting more comfortable with me. He's getting more comfortable with exercising, and he's back to running. Sometimes when he's running outside, mm-hmm. he may spin around a few times as he's running, and then he'll take off. So he just does his own thing, which is perfectly fine. But then sometimes he just runs down and back as fast as he can. So He's getting more comfortable. So those are the few improvements that I have seen, just as far as the training aspect of it, mm-hmm. and him being more open and willing to do some of the exercises that I've showed him. Mm-hmm. That I think at the beginning he wasn't very confident at the time, and I think he's more confident now mm-hmm. to do them. So I think that's why he's giving it a try and improving. Yeah,
definitely. And Drayson is one of those kids where, when we introduce something to him at first, it's an immediate no. Yeah. Like his favorite word's no. I know I've mentioned that on past episodes before, but his favorite word is no. No, or now he's learned the phrase, no thanks, not today, which is my favorite, because if you ask him to do something, he'll just say, no thanks, not today. And that was something that we did notice with Drayson. I think he gets into a place almost of fear because he's not confident or he's worried about doing something. I've noticed that it takes some time, but once he'll start actually doing the exercises with Tyler, it's kind of amazing to watch. Like, I didn't realize he had some of the coordination that he had. I didn't realize that he had some of the balance that he had. And these are all issues that we've struggled with Drayson, and he's been in occupational therapy and still is. So I feel that this has really helped, along with his occupational therapy, working out with you in the gym.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about maybe do you feel that you've developed a relationship not just with Drayson but with your kids in general? I mean, I know the first time that I came in the gym to try to work out with him, it was a flat out no. It was supposed to just be him and Mr. Tyler. Like, I'm not supposed to be involved in that. And I kind of saw a little bit of a unique bond between the two of you. Have you found also that you're developing, relationships and bonds with some of these kids?
Yes. I think I have a pretty good relationship with all the kids that I work mm-hmm. with. Like, for example, Drayson, sometimes when he comes in, he may be a little agitated and he'll tell me to go away. Yeah. So I give him his time, right? And then I think that helps, because I think that helps build trust. I'm not trying to rush him into doing something mm-hmm. when he's not ready to do it. Same for one of my other clients. He doesn't like being rushed. Right. So if he's talking to me, I listen to him, I ask him questions, and he's more comfortable with that. Okay. So I think those are a few different ways that I try to build trust. I really just let them be who they are. Mm-hmm. And I incorporate training throughout that at time, you know. So one of the clients, he likes to tell me jokes. And he's gotten so comfortable with talking to me, actually his parents have taken him out of speech therapy now since he talks to me so much. And funny thing is, he told me, you know what, I'm really not that talkative. And then me and his dad we look at each other and we think you talk the entire time when you're in here. Right. And so we kind of jokingly said that to him. He was like, I guess I kind of like coming here. Yeah. And that's a big thing because, you know, for him and most kids on the spectrum, things are black and white. Right. He doesn't associate coming to the gym as being fun. Right. He just thinks, you know, reading and those things like that are fun to him. Mm-hmm. So he's actually warming up and saying, he actually said he had an ounce of fun. Oh, you know, that's his thing. An ounce of fun. Yeah. And then he tried to backtrack and say, what's less than an ounce? So I just try to meet them where they are. Another kid, for example, he doesn't necessarily like running. Mm-hmm. But he's always talking about zombies. So I came up with an idea and I said, well, when you're running, imagine that it's zombies everywhere. Right? We're on level 1 and you have a pocket knife. So you have to get rid of all the zombies with a pocket knife and you have to run. And he took off. And I'm saying the zombies on your leg and he's stabbing at his leg and I'm like, they're on your back and he's stabbing at his back. And he didn't complain at all about running. Right. He enjoyed running. Right. So I think those are different ways that I try to build a relationship with each one of them. Like I said, I just meet them where they're at. Yeah. And
really trying to find out what their interests are and what they like. And
I don't have an issue with that. If I have to get creative in that aspect for me to get out, for me to, you know, get them to do what I want them to do at the time, that's kind of compromising. I'm compromised and they're compromised. And that's what it's all about. And just meeting them halfway to try to, you know, get them the best benefit that they can get out of this.
Which there's a lot of things that correlate into other therapies, just like what I've seen with Drayson with speech and OT and his other therapies. It's a lot of just kind of almost interactive play, trying to figure out what they like, what their interests are, and get them to do something. So, but I really do appreciate how you're a little like on the sly about getting them to move and be active without them really realizing that they're being active. And then I've noticed that kind of has happened with Drayson, and now it's curtailing into, I'm exercising. And he's not necessarily focusing on like the imaginary type play, but he's actually doing like push-ups and planks. Yes. Which I had to crack up the other day. I was in the gym with him the other day, and we were ending the session, and Tyler told us to both do planks. And I was holding the plank position and waiting for Tyler to start counting, and Drayson was just watching me do the plank and not doing the plank. So when he finally went into plank position, Tyler finally started counting, and I'm like, I've already been down here for like 30 seconds. So, but I thought that was funny because I caught Drayson's face when he started to do the plank. He kind of had a little smirk on his face, almost like, I got you, Mom. And that was pretty funny because I've never really seen that reaction from Drayson. So, and one thing that I've noticed, and I'll just, for those of you listening today, I'll let you know that like I mentioned on last week's episode, we've noticed a significant difference with Drayson. He's been speaking more, a little more confidence, I've noticed that he's seems okay on transitions, a little bit better, less tantrums, that type of thing. So we've noticed a lot of big differences with Drayson. But what message do you have for parents who have kids that are autistic that maybe are looking for something different to do? Because this was definitely different for us. You know, we get very siloed into the therapies, and those are all really important to do, but they're very academically based. And I realized for me as a mom that it was probably really taxing for Drayson to not have an outlet because he's in therapies pretty much 6 days a week plus school. I was concerned about burnout with him. I was concerned about all these things. And I just realized that I wasn't letting him have that outlet. So he wasn't doing well, or he'd have more maybe not so great days with speech or OT. But now I've noticed he's had better days in his therapy since he started personal training with you, because I feel that that might be an outlet for Drayson. So what message would you have for parents that maybe are looking to do something like this, or the benefits, or why they should consider maybe having their child work with a personal trainer?
Yeah, I think one, like we talked about, confidence. I think 2, it's an outlet. 3, it gives them a different stimulation, both mental and physical, but in a fun setting,
Right.
to where they can just be free and, just kind of be who they are. I think it also works on coordination. I feel like when a kid is coordinated and they feel like they're pretty coordinated, that really gives them confidence to do a lot of different things. And then just challenging them to do push-ups, and if they realize, I can do, this was a struggle, day one, now, 2 months later, it's really not that difficult anymore.
Yeah.
So I think me just challenging them, or a trainer just challenging them in different ways, would help tremendously. And just, as we know, being active and being fit, burning that energy, they may sleep better. That could be a benefit, great benefit, because
Drayson's been sleeping a lot better since he started working out. I was like, I wish I would have known this sooner. Have the kid run a mile every day. But yeah, I've noticed that my husband and I both have noticed that he sleeps a lot better now since he's been working out, which sleep disruption we have a lot of problems with Drayson with that. So that's amazing. So what has, and the other thing too is, have you noticed even changes in posture, movement, things like that?
Okay. I have. Yeah. I have noticed a change in posture with all of the kids that I work with. From particularly one of the kids that I was working with, he has a hard time walking on his toes. When he's walking, he has something that's called drop foot. He was wearing leg braces or ankle braces to help straighten that out, and that really wasn't working. It was irritating his skin. So I started to stretch him and work on his movement patterns, and they've increased. And he was able to run within a few weeks. Wow. From working with me, and that was something that he was never really able to do, is run. So I think something like that, is extremely important, and getting confidence. And I think a lot of it has to do with the parents too, like you said, is being confident. But I think with when kids just have that confidence, I think that's just so important.
Yeah. Right. And I think, I'm sure you've heard it before, like the way you sit, the way you stand, your posture can also affect how you feel.
Yes.
So, and that's something that we've noticed with Drayson.
And could potentially lead to injuries or pain down the road as they get older.
Yeah.
So those are things that you would want to try to correct, now. The thing with me is trying to figure out how I can incorporate those things. Because if I ask them, if you have pain, they're not going to really be able to tell me if they have pain.
Right.
Or if I'm stretching them, how does this stretch feel? Things like that may not completely resonate with them. So I have to find a different approach to try to still get to the end goal.
Right.
That's something that I'm still learning and still working on.
Right.
When I'm working with kids on the spectrum, is just trying to figure that out. Because, if you have pain, you can easily just communicate that to me.
Right.
We can pinpoint it and then we can work on it.
Right.
But that's not something that they're focusing on. I don't think most kids are really focusing on that anyway.
And Drayson wouldn't tell me if something was necessarily bothering him until it's really, really bothering him.
Or maybe you see a facial expression possibly.
Right. But Drayson doesn't communicate, that hurts or this is sore. Like, that's not something that we run into with him. So I think that it's important to also give them that. Probably what helps with their communication a little bit too, about how they're just feeling.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about maybe what you've learned about working with people on the spectrum, because we've talked so much about what the improvements we've seen with kids and families, but what have you learned?
Yeah, so good question. I think the first thing is, each kid is so different, so I have to have a different approach for each particular kid. and just being extremely patient. And especially because, it may start off good, at the beginning. And it's really minute to minute, so just depend on where they're at and really just encouraging them and making sure they're having that confidence and making sure they're having fun. Because I feel like if they're having fun, that's going to really improve their mood at that time, and hopefully that carries on to once they leave and when they go home. So just being patient and just understanding and realizing and being mindful that they're all so different, even though they may have some similarities, but they understand things on a different level. So I have to try to communicate to them on that level, so they can understand. So those are the biggest things that I've learned with working with kids on the spectrum. Okay.
And I guess emotionally or mentally, do you feel that so do you feel too that this has also helped you outside of the gym? You talk about patience and learning all these things that you've learned from the kids, but do you feel like personally that it's also helped you in a way that maybe you didn't realize or learned by working with these kids?
Yeah. Like you said, patience is the main thing. I'm a lot more patient now. I'm a lot more understanding now. And I'm a lot more just thankful, because I've always grown up to just be able to do whatever I wanted to do, never having any limitations.
Right.
And then when I'm working with kids who have, a few limitations as far as they may not, be able to, just drive one day.
Right.
I really appreciate the fact that, and I take, I'm just really, really appreciate some of the little things that I feel like people take for granted.
Yeah. Suddenly everything doesn't seem like such a big deal.
Correct.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just seeing that it makes me very appreciative, and with that, it makes me want to help them that much more.
Okay.
Because I just see so much potential in them, and I want them to maximize their potential.
Right.
Regardless if they can see it in themselves, I see it and the parents see it, and I feel like that's a way. It's always one of those things to where the kid may not always listen to the parent, but I may say the same exact thing that the parent is saying, and now they're going to listen to me.
Which is typical kid-parent response, right? So, and I think that's what we forget sometimes is that they're still kids, right? They're still human beings and they're people. And that, do you find, though, that for the most part, they're all capable, it's just they learn differently?
Yes, they're all capable, and they just learn differently. And that's my job, to figure out how they learn.
Right.
And try to create a program that day to where they can understand and they can, be positive about it and realize that this is something that they can do.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And especially bringing Drayson into the gym at first, at least for me, it was mildly terrifying because, the equipment is we're not talking like cushy padded equipment here. And I didn't know what Drayson's reaction was going to be. And even though Drayson's not a reactionary person, I wasn't necessarily worried about him picking up or throwing a weight or doing anything like that. But, you kind of are a little concerned about that. So one thing that we've done in home and we've done with Tyler is we've had Tyler come to the house to visit with our in-home care team and help work around some rules around the gym so that he has some structure and understanding. So one thing that I'll encourage to all of you listening today, that is, if you're thinking about doing something like this, or if you're, wanting to maybe talk to a personal trainer about this, I think it's important that you bring in your care team if you have a care team as well, because that's one thing that helped Tyler was to talk to our care team as well. I mean, you got to meet, his in-home HAB and behavioral therapist. And so if you could tell our listeners today a little bit about what that was like, trying to also kind of, learn from the care team some things about even just Drayson and how that could be that could vary for everybody.
Yeah, I think that was a great experience. I learned a lot. That's something that I want to continue to do. But one thing that I learned, the caretaker asked me, what are some of the, difficulties I may have to get Drayson to do something? And I told him run, and so he told me that if I prepare Drayson soon as he comes in the door about what we're going to do for the day, then he's more inclined to, do those exercises, do those activities.
Right.
So I tried it and it worked.
Oh my gosh, we know what we're doing.
So I was very happy and I'm excited because he's running again.
Right.
So I don't have to do it every time. But if it's something that I feel like may be a little bit overwhelming for him, I'm really intentional about letting him know.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a big thing that I learned. And I apply that to majority of the clients that I work with, majority of the kids that I work with.
Right. Now, do you have any advice for parents on maybe questions to ask if they're looking for a personal trainer, if they're looking for maybe a resource? I know that in the future, just so you know, folks, in the future, we're probably going to have Tyler back on the show to talk about some bigger things that are up and coming. Wink, wink. But in the interim of all of this, if there are parents that maybe are looking to do something like this, obviously there's some safety, and we want to make sure that the kids are staying safe. Are there any specific questions that you would recommend that parents ask maybe another personal trainer or wherever they might be doing something like this?
So, yes, I would say, one, you would want to know their experience.
Okay.
Want to know if they're certified or not.
Okay.
And just their educational background.
Okay.
And their clientele. Because if they're working with, someone that just wants to lose weight or get bigger or stronger, that may not be a good fit for them, because you don't necessarily have to have patience to work with someone like that.
Right.
So it's just a different demographic.
Right.
So just asking questions and just be honest with them. Do they think, is the trainer comfortable with working with the kid on the spectrum?
Okay.
And how much information they know about that?
Right.
Because, some trainers may just they just may want to do it for the money, and then they realize, oh, this is not something that I'm, capable of doing. So,
right.
Those are the questions that I would ask, and you'll get a good feeling based off of their clientele. The clientele is the number one key of who they train. If they train seniors, now that's more compatible, because that's kind of how I started. So you have to be patient with seniors also. So,
right.
But yeah, clientele, education, and experience is the three most important questions, I would say.
Okay.
Actually, to throw one thing in is also what kind of gym they're in. Okay. I'm more in a private setting. Right. So if it's a gym with a lot of people coming in and out, I don't think that may be a good fit. Right. What would you say about that?
Well, I would probably say the same thing. Like, one of the benefits is that where we take Drayson, the gym is smaller, and I would definitely say that that's been better. If we put him in like a bigger, gym, I don't know, I'm not really sure how he'd react. I think we would get no to everything. He wouldn't want to do anything. Because I do think even though he doesn't lead on like he cares about what other people think, I think he gets a little concerned if people are watching him. Yeah. I mean, or maybe it's just me because I'm mom, but he does that to me all the time because like he doesn't want the criticism or the judgment, even though he doesn't say it. Yeah. So I would definitely agree with that. So do you have any funny stories that you might be able to tell? Maybe anyone come to mind? Not just Drayson, but because I know we've talked about Drayson quite a bit, but do you have any kind of funny or uplifting stories that since you've gone down this journey with the kids that you've experienced? So
for Drayson, I had him jump on on top of a box, and so I bring out the box. It's probably about this high, and
so for those listening, it's about 18 inches.
I would say about 18 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little less.
Okay.
And so I bring the box out. And he says, no, that's dangerous. So I just start laughing. And I was like, so do you want to try another one? And then as soon as I said that, he jumps on top of the box.
Right.
So I'm thinking typical Drayson, right?
Right. Yeah, totally.
That's kind of his way of saying no, but then he does it anyways, right? So I thought that was pretty funny. Another incident.
Those safety things are really coming to play. He's like, no, that's dangerous. I wonder what we were teaching him to make him say that, but it's funny.
But another incident with him was we went outside, and I had a tennis ball.
Yeah.
And I would throw the tennis ball off the wall, and I would catch it. So I told Drayson, I'll throw it off the wall and let him catch it. Uh-huh. So he was actually, catching it. So I told him, now you throw it off the wall and I'll catch it. And I was like, well, throw it hard as you can. And he winds up and he throws it on top of the roof.
Oops.
So I thought that was a funny moment also.
You're like, well, I did tell him to throw it as hard as he could.
Yeah, so he did follow directions.
That's so funny. Well, and I'm sure it makes your heart happy in a lot of ways, too, to see the progression with these kids and to watch their progress. And also, too, I mean, seeing how they learn, I'm sure, is kind of fascinating for you because they all learn differently, right?
Yes.
And there's a deep appreciation for that, I
Yes.
think. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tyler, we've enjoyed having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here today. I really hope that for those of you listening and watching today, this was really helpful and maybe encouraging to do something different. I know that this has now become a part of our daily lives, working out in the gym, and Drayson loves it, and that's kind of why I wanted to bring it on the show today, to just kind of let parents know that sometimes thinking outside the box can really lead into bigger things, and we're really excited and happy that we're doing this with Tyler. And again, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
This concludes our episode for today. If you have questions, comments, or even a subject that you would like to hear about on our show, please feel free to send me an email at info@piecesformypuzzle.com. If you like what you're hearing, please also feel free to give us a good rating on your preferred podcast platform of choice. And don't forget to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you haven't already. And also not to mention that we have our YouTube channel too, if you would like to watch or subscribe to that channel at Pieces for My Puzzle. Thanks again for tuning in today. Until next time, keep working on your puzzle, and remember, you don't have to have it all solved in a day. Take care.